Okay, so I think, Tariq, if you're ready to get started, we can get going.
Yeah, let's do it. No better way than hump day export control discussions. Fun, fun, fun.
Perfect. Well, thank you for everyone, to everyone who's joining. We're excited to get going. A few small pieces of housekeeping before we get started. This is recorded, so if you do need to step away, we will be sending out the recording, or you can also feel free to share it after with anyone who wasn't able to join today. Secondly, there is both a chat function and a Q&A function available within the webinar. If anyone's not familiar with Zoom, it should be down at the bottom of your screen. We will be keeping all attendees in attendee mode, so if you do have questions, feel free to enter them there and we will read them aloud. You can ask throughout the presentation, but also if you want to wait until the end, we have a Q&A session time saved at the end, so we can address them there as well. And with that, I don't think we have anything else housekeeping wise, so I will jump into today's topic and introductions. So my name is Anne Riitho, and with me today I have Thariq Kara. Tariq, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hey everyone. Yeah, thanks a ton for jumping on. My name's Tariq, CEO at Byte. Anne and I have been building Byte for almost 3 years. We previously worked on supply chain investigations for the federal government, US government prior to that. And I started my career in customs, working for immigration and customs enforcement, and built their first export control platform. So just a little bit of background on us. So you do know that we are trade geeks by background.
Thanks, Tarek. And just to go through the agenda today, so we will be discussing the recent Export Control Transparency Act that was signed into law. We will also be discussing export control classification numbers and the country list there. And finally, how automation can transform bulk processing of high-risk entities and how all of that relates to export controls. So hopefully by the end of this, you'll see not just policy changes and what's going on, but also how to practically adapt within your businesses. So jumping right in to the first topic here, I think we're all aware global trade is becoming more complex. There's been a lot of attention in the news on the import side with regard to tariffs and other things affecting importers, but there's also been some changes on the export side. So, not only in the US, but globally, countries are tightening their export control regimes. And this is in response to a number of national security and economic security concerns. But compliance isn't just about avoiding risk, it's also about building trust with customers and partners. And what we've seen is companies that invest in compliance are the ones who are often able to grow sustainably in those international markets. In addition to regulations expanding, we've seen a lot more enforcement actions and penalties. So here, I've just put a link in to the Cadence Design Systems ruling where they agreed to pay over $140 million total, 95 million of that in civil penalties and almost 118 in criminal fines. So this included a formal guilty plea. And this is a good example. It's the first coordinated corporate guilty plea under the DOJ's updated National Security Division enforcement policy. And it just goes to highlight how BIS and DOJ are aligning priorities. So another kind of highlight here is the highlighted the scrutiny, increased scrutiny on semiconductor tools and technology transfers, especially between the US and China that we've seen in the news so much. I do want to pause here just for a moment. We will share the recording and the slides after, so there are a few links in here, and don't feel like you have to be scribbling down notes. You'll get the slides. They're very text heavy, so that they can be useful later. So jumping into just maintaining compliant export operations. We'll dig into the Export Control Transparency Act a little bit deeper, but at a high level, what this is going to do is, excuse me, introduce new visibility into export licenses for high-risk entities, especially in sensitive sectors. And what it does is mandate that the BIS report regularly to Congress, and this is going to ensure greater accountability. And it means that companies may have to be more transparent and also possibly may have greater scrutiny applied to their export environments. Jumping into the details of the act, this is one of those slides I said is pretty text heavy. So we'll try to unpack it and go a little bit slowly through all of this. But as I said, what this act, which is now a law, does is strengthen transparency around export licensing. So it's in response to congressional concerns that BIS is too permissive in giving out licenses and has insufficient records for sensitive exports, especially to China. So now BIS has to produce detailed annual reports for Congress covering applications involving entities in arms embargoed countries, as well as any entity on the entity list or MEU list. And these reports will include information like the ECCN, the reason for control, the value, any end use checks, um, dates of submission, and also aggregate statistics covering all applications during the period. And then finally, it will also indicate if the license was approved or denied. So for exporters, this is creating a clear paper trail, and all of this should have been being submitted to BIS anyway, but what this does is kind of uncover it to Congress and allow for deeper investigation of each of these data points. Tariq, did you have something you wanted to add there?
Yeah, I think we'll kind of just so everyone's aware, we'll dive into how how Byte helps this process. But even from it did sound like that China, Southeast Asia were a big kind of part of the reasoning from an AOR perspective for some of this legislation. I remember when I worked at Homeland Security Investigations. We had set up the Export Control Coordination Center, and that required coordination between different U.S. agencies. And I recall sitting in also on a call with Matt Axelrod last year, where he described the work the DOJ, Commerce, and Treasury and Homeland Security were doing for export control. And so I think there's the act, but then there's also the enforcement piece. And it does sound like, that will also be increasing. I did see at the American Association for Exporters and Importers, a former BIS senior official did mention that the budget for BIS enforcement, I think, had gone up at least double, and much of that was for boots on the ground. So, I do think that this is likely a sign that the enforcement side will also be increasing as well.
Thanks. And so what does this do across different stakeholders? So as we discussed for Congress, it's establishing a paper trail and enhancing visibility, and then fulfills recommendations made from oversight reviews. For exporters, it exporters should expect increased scrutiny and potential inquiries from congressional offices or oversight bodies. And then again, exporters already were preparing documentation, but just establishing proactive communication channels with government teams and all, and keeping that paperwork in line and accessible becomes even more critical. And then from a national security perspective, just reinforces protection against inadvertent or prohibited exports to high-risk parties. So in other words, the burden may be higher, but the intent is stronger protections.
Yeah, and I think we're kind of just touching on this at a high level. If anyone ever wants to dive deeper, we do have, in the company, former biz and HIS personnel, HSI personnel, Homeland Security Investigations on the export control side, who'd be, we'd be happy to set up a call to talk through, especially some of that government coordination aspect or things where you feel like you need a bit of guidance on how to navigate that. So this is just a webinar, but we're happy to kind of have a deeper discussion if anybody wants to around those.
And so what does this all mean for businesses? Um, First, record keeping, now more than ever. So documentation needs to be complete, accessible, audit ready. Not only documentation, we've had a number of conversations on both the import and export side around data as well. So keeping your data in good format, keeping all of that together in one place. So as I said, complete, accessible is another key thing. So if you have to dig through 15 different places to pull together data if someone comes knocking, just have it all in one place, have it ready to be inspected. Secondly, expecting more frequent and deeper audits. So regulators may want to start seeing evidence of compliance at every step, no matter where you are in the process. And thirdly, gaps in compliance aren't just legal risks, they're reputational and financial. So as we touched on the enforcement side, fines of $140 million aren't anything to balk at. So keep in mind the reputation and financial risks of compliance as well. And what does this all mean? As Thariq said, there are tools that exist, Byte being one of them, that help you be more compliant. So a lot of tools, Byte consolidates export-related data. If you keep your export-related data consolidated in one place, your products, your customers, with Byte, you get the regulation all into one platform that can help you remain compliant and audit ready. We also are looking at automating and identifying ECCN classification, screening, restricted party bulk screening, and all of this reduces the manual errors. It can also help, and we'll get into this a little bit more, but it can help prevent differences between people, different departments classifying things different ways, keeping track of paperwork differently. So bringing it all into one central location in a centralized workflow so that you can efficiently and accurately comply with all of the regulations. So we're going to step into just an export workflow, keeping in mind this is within the context of the recent act that we just discussed. So we won't be going into ITAR compliance, or if if you need a license determination. So this next workflow I'm going to show, this is strictly once you know that you're working on the EAR. You need to get your item classified. So understanding the product attributes. Sometimes this is a matter of working with engineers to understand the thresholds with the product that you're working on. So get that item classified and then assign the correct ECCN. So as we all know, we'll go into this a little bit in a minute, but the ECCN is pretty foundational for then mapping to the controls. After you have your ECCN, you can check the country chart, country restrictions, screen your end user as well, understand the reasons for the controls, and then do a risk and license flag. So understand if escalation is needed. If you've been, you see your controls and it turns out that you are kicked out to ITAR or some other regime, you can go there. Log your export, so understand your transaction, have your audit trail stored, have a record of everything you did at every step, and then continuously rescreening. So whether that be continuing to look at your ECCN that you assigned, make sure no changes have been made there, or rescreening your end user. So making sure that you have a rescreening process applied across your transaction. So automating this process obviously would make that a little bit easier for everyone. And as I said, through the automation process, you can make it a little bit more consistent, more efficient, and traceable, which is what you're looking for in an audit trail. So I believe this is a recap for many people on this call, but just quickly diving into the ECCN, this is the alphanumeric code that I'm referencing on that previous workflow chart. So the first number is the Commerce Control List category. There are 10 categories available, numbers 0 through 9. The next letter is the product group. So is it an end item, equipment, accessories, attachments? Is it for testing? Is it materials, software, or technology? And then the last 3 digits determine the control type. All of this can be viewed on the BIS website. So they recently put out the interactive commerce control list. You can search, this is just a screenshot, but you can search on this website. You can open each one of these up and take a look. If you haven't checked it out yet, go ahead and check that out. You can filter by category as well. And then from there, you can also view the interactive commerce country chart. And again, these are all resources available through the BIS website. Once you get this recording, we'll have links included. And these are all helpful resources, but they are still pretty manual. So you have to go to the ECCN, search for your control, read everything there. There's typically a lot of back and forth references to other sections of the EAR, and then you have to come to the Commerce Control Chart and check your country and look for the X on the right column, etc. So these tools are all very helpful, but what we wanted to talk about today was a little bit more around how you can automate some of this without necessarily having to go through all of those steps and all of that ping pong across different links on BIS's website. So now that we've gone through there, this is just a practical example highlighting, I know it's pretty small, I apologize, highlighting just the differences with ECCNs and why screening your destination matters. So there are a few examples up now. For example, the ECCN 0A501, if it's .y after, then that will change the controls that apply. Destination matters. I've given an example here, 0A602.b. So to Canada, there are no controls, but to Kenya, you have national security and regional stability. So when looking at your ECCN, always look in combination with your destination as well and make that an integral part of your screening process. as I said, with continuous monitoring, so you want to move beyond just periodic audits. So compliance is a living process. Ongoing monitoring prevents gaps, as we said. Things can change with regard to how ECCNs are classified, or obviously what entities are listed on different lists. So you need to be continuously screening and monitoring everything in your export control process. Some best practices for readiness, uh, automated partner screening, and we'll show how this can be done. As I've talked about quite a bit, centralized auditable records. One that I think often gets overlooked or skimmed over and kind of a more check the box is regular training. So training your trade compliance teams, also sales teams, logistics teams, warehouse employees. Uh, Export control is everyone's responsibility. I saw a LinkedIn post the other day about compliance ownership. So, who owns different parts of the process? Make sure you have that well defined and that everyone in that process understands their role within compliance and export controls. Um, and then, yeah, continuous monitoring. I think we've covered that pretty significantly, but just keeping track of everything as it's happening. So live monitoring, and part of that obviously is having everything in one place and the ability to live monitor. Tarek, anything you wanted to add on audit readiness?
No, I think you're covering it all and doing an excellent job, Anne. Keep going.
Okay. So pivoting a little bit, when we were talking about ECCNs, it was very product focused. I did mention a few times the need to screen the destination, but also you need to screen your end user. So again, anytime you're exporting, you need to be screening your end user or your recipient. So even if it's, more so, I guess, if you don't, even before you know if a license is going to be required, you want to make sure that who you're sending it to can receive the good. So entity screening becomes foundational as well to export controls. And I'm just going to switch the screen that I'm sharing right now so that I can jump in and show a little bit more around how we at Byte do some bulk entity screening, what that looks like, and how we're able to streamline the compliance process. So let me stop sharing here and start sharing here. All right. So, as I said, we'll go through both the export workflow and the entity screening process here. So on the export workflow, I guess that's where we started. So I'll start there. Um, we have a classification. So this is, as we were discussing, getting to that accurate ECCN number, alphanumeric code, I should say, and making sure that you have that. So in this case, I'll do a stainless steel pipe fitting. And what this is looking through, as we said, those multiple steps, assigning a category first, and going through the EAR to get to the right point here. So it does ask a series of follow-up questions to help narrow down and get you to the right ECCN. And as a final step, it provides the ECCN code and a product description to retain your records. This can be saved so that you have record of how you got to the accurate ECCN. And from there, we then would take this code and search the country. So in this case, I want to send this to Kenya and I want to check the controls. So
We're
this is
we're working on making it more like ChatGPT, so it scripts and ticks stuff out lovelily, like a little AI bot. For now, you've got to kind of work with our Rubik's Cube. Sorry, guys.
And in this case, good news, no controls were found. And this is really helpful because what it does is it breaks down kind of the process that I would have taken if I had gone to the BIS website, seen that there were controls for this, let's say for regional stability, then taken that next step and gone and looked on the country chart, and Kenya is not indicated there. So what this does is gives everything that was considered and then the reason why, the final takeaway. So it does not apply. And then same with anti-terrorism. So it gives me that breakdown, gives the product description from within the ECCN, and then also gives related controls that you can look into if you need to. So the next step would be to screen, and some people may screen before, some people may screen after they run the ECCN check. So in this case, the HS code for my steel pipe fittings, I know already. If I did need to figure it out, if I wasn't sure what the HS code was, I didn't have that for some reason, I could come to the classification tool on the import workflow, and I'll just quickly show that. And we have it on the import workflow, but as I'm showing you now, if you need to look up an HS code, you can always switch over from the export flow to get that classified if you don't have it already.
Because tariffs are so hot topic, and I just feel like you should pop it in there and see what comes out.
I feel like people here are like, no more tariffs.
We don't want to hear about
Well, it's
tariffs.
about exports. Um, so mine is not threaded. I don't know if I wrote no or not. But I'll do it just for you, Tariq. Run my tariff check. Oh gosh. Um, truly used. Unfortunately, I don't know that much about my pipe fittings, so we'll get to a 10-digit code here. There we go. So I've gotten to my 10-digit code, and again, I have a commodity description here. So if I was continuing with my export, I could head back to screening. In this case, I'll just sneak over to tariffs just to quickly show what that looks like. So I'll put in my HS code here. If I'm importing from China, um, you can see then I need to let let the system know what my steel percentage is. We'll just leave it, we'll put it at 60. And then down below, I have the breakdown of my duty, my base duty, and then everything that applies to the non-steel portion, which is my 10%, Section 301 and China duties. And then down below, my Section 232 tariffs applied as well. So for a total here, I can also adjust my value up top. I can create a ticket of this so that I have it to show what my tariff will be. Oh, next. And that's saved in monitor. So I've now classified my good, I've gotten the tariff. I'm going to head back to my export screening now. So again,
Sorry for the shameless plug. It looks so cool. Sorry. Go ahead, Anne.
yeah, yeah. So heading back to my export workflow, if I hadn't yet figured out my ECCN, or even after I have, I can plug in my HS code here. And again, we said I was sending this to Kenya. So I'm going to go ahead and run my screen. And this is looking outside of just the ECCN, but in this case, I have a low risk, a low burden. I think I got a different code this time than I did last time. Let's see. My stainless steel fitting bend, if I had come here. So this one was a pipe bend. My other one was a threaded bend. So I'm going to screen this actually just to show what that looks like. So here we go. So in this case, good demonstration of how a HS code can impact, even on the export side. In this case, my risk of shipping is higher and my burden is higher, and that's because this code can be used for uranium enrichment. So in this case, if we hadn't yet done the ECCN, I would know that I need to conduct a thorough ECCN review, determine specific license requirements, and I can open that up and see more below on what is triggering that. And now I've done my ECCN review. I can save this as a ticket and put it in here, and then my ECCN was this. I can share this with anyone else on my team, and then I can screen it frequently. So I can keep screening this. So if anything does change on the HTS code, I will get notified. And that goes to that kind of continuous monitoring that we were discussing previously. So in my monitor tickets now, I now have a tariff ticket. I also have a classification ticket for my stainless steel bend that I can refer back to, upload additional documentation to, if I have a picture of it or whatever may help with understanding the classification. And then the next step would be to screen my end user. So
And before you go there, let's just kind of go back, make sure everyone's aware of, taking us back to that statute and how, this isn't just a demo of Byte, but we want to show you some of the audit and activity tools. So in our tickets themselves, and we'll show you this again, but if you click on a ticket and um, from Monitor, we have the activity section where we do log all the actions you take. So in here, you can both see the audit log at the bottom if anything changes, and then we have the ability to add comments as well. So if you go in here and say, look, I've done this, it's for this shipment number, etc. All that information is searchable. You can export everything as a download or save it any way you want. And so that's kind of it's a good audit trail for a global trade professional, who wants to maintain their work product. So just wanted to point that out. It is Byte. There are other tools that do this. This isn't meant to just be a Byte demo. It's meant to kind of show you, the value, of tools like this to your work.
thanks, Tark. Key point to be made. So yep. So then similarly in Monitor, as we said, all of that is tracked here. You can see down below, I also have some entities being tracked as well. So I will show for entity screening. And here I'm going to show just what a one-off kind of one-time search looks like. That's pretty manual. But you can also, I will then show kind of how to keep all of this in one place and what that can look like. So let me just screen, I'll do TC Capital, and I'm just going to run it, just the name on its own. Returns come down below, but then we also have an evaluated risk here. So in this case, this is a high risk entity. It's been assigned high because it's showing up on an OFAC SDN. We have the top matches over here. So in this case, I only have 2 matches. But if there were more, you would have up to 5 matches in the confidence level. And then you can also open up the record down below and see the details. So in this case, it is on OFAC. We get an address here. additional alternative names, and then identifiers coming from OFAC also. Again, the program as well. So we can also run a search. The adverse findings, this isn't on demand. You can run this and it will search, as it says, open source, and then provide a summary of the sources that it finds, just to provide some additional information or links out on the entity. So you can see here a lot of these are recent OFAC press releases, but then you can see some from the SEC and others. So this is a good way to kind of dig into, if you wanted to do a little bit more investigating, this is a good starting point on the entity. Like with the other commodity tickets I showed, here you can create a ticket going back to the need for continuous monitoring. You can save this. Again, set your screening to be daily, weekly. I'll do daily. So now anytime anything changes, I will get a notification of that. It's saved in my monitoring my monitoring module. I can enable notifications, email or in-app, and again, put comments. So if I said, decided not to continue sales conversations, right? Now I have a record of what I did and why I talked to them and everything associated there. So this is, as I said, the kind of more manual one-off. We do, it is automated rescreening once you get it set up. So there is automation there, but still a somewhat manual process when it comes to if you had, let's say, 300 or 3,000 entities, and you don't want to manually type them all in. We do have a database feature that you can upload your entities. This is just some sample data, and you can go ahead and clear them, bar them, quarantine, and you can set the database to be screened and rescreened so that you can, again, have that automated. So you can use that, the database feature, to upload all of your entities and keep rescreening there. Going back to the, let me just open this too. Then you also get the same AI evaluation here. If I had screened this entity, you can get the AI evaluation saved as well. So the same functions that were shown in the entity are in the database. And again, just going back to Tariq's point, there are other tools that do screening, but we just want to show kind of how some of the automation and the AI evaluation can help with the quick adjudication if you need it.
Yeah, thanks, Anne. And yeah, let's also kind of mention some of the training and stuff like that as well in the app. I think it's, super important that, folks do continue to keep up with stuff.
Yep. So we have a resources section called Bite You. As we said, training is really important, and as regulations change, keeping teams up to date. So in this case, this is a 101 export compliance training course. It's short videos designed to be able to not be too burdensome. Each video is about 3 to 5 minutes. You can take the whole course. You can also share with others on your team. So there's export compliance, but then if you are worried at all about forced labor in your supply chain, you can take a look at that.
Yeah, and we tend to keep the regulatory side fairly high level, on the export control side, we have a regimes and controls module, learning about Australia Group, Vasana, things like that, if they apply to you. So, we try to keep it pretty broad. It's a good kind of 101 like intro over the course of 8 short videos that help you understand the aspects of US export control that we've seen on the enforcement side as well. So we do have, as I mentioned, in-house biz and HSI folks who kind of help us put some of that together. So it's also available on the NCBFAA Educational Institute. So we do partner with them to get training up there as well. So you get a broker credit if you take it. Oh, and that reminds me, and let's not forget the broker. We forgot to mention it at the beginning,
Yeah.
but you do, if you're an LCB, you do get a credit hour for this webinar.
Yeah. Um, and then again, just in case you are interested, we do keep all of the data in a data catalog here. So even if you're not working through a workflow, if you did want to reference any of the lists here, or dig into who's listed on denied party screening, you can dig into various lists if you wanted to see, for example, Canada has their research organizations. You can take a look at those and dig a little bit deeper into what each one of those looks like. So just another way to better understand the regulations that are surrounding global trade. Um, I don't have anything to add on the product side, Thariq, unless you have something else you wanted to talk about there.
No, not too much. We're as and I don't know if you mentioned it, but we're building on the ITAR and USML aspects of our classification and ECCN piece, and that's going to be part of that agentic flow as well. And we're building it now and hope to have it in about a month to 6 weeks. So I think that's the only relevant piece on the product side.
Okay, great. Um, I'm also going to just pause here for a second to see if there are any questions. I saw, Tariq, you were answering some in the chat. Um, I'm not sure if I think everyone can see the answer when you answer there. Okay, yeah,
I think so.
okay.
Yeah, a couple of really good questions if you guys want to take a look. I've never had to classify a product data sheet, Michael, but thank you for bringing that one up. Uh, yeah,
Uh,
tariffs come in regularly. Most of our data, as soon as source updates, we try to bring it in. And yeah, we'll be pushing out more training pretty soon. We're actually working with a couple of customers to do customized training for them. So one of our customers has got, 10 business units. They're a very well-established defense contractor, and we're making these kind of short TikTok-esque videos for each of the business units. So they don't have to take like that hour-long like global trade compliance training. We can do, little 5-minute blurbs for each group. So that's actually been a lot of fun making that.
all right, and while we get any additional questions coming in, I will pull out the broker code so that we have that. Um, if I need it. Um,
Also post our contact details here, and
okay,
I don't know if I can chat.
okay. Just making sure I have the right one. All right, so I'll put that in the chat now. Okay, so that's in the chat. If you are a licensed broker, you can use that link. I'll also send that out in the wrap-up email following the webinar. It doesn't look like we've had any other questions come in. So from here, I guess just to summarize what we've covered, global trade, a little bit on imports, but also exports is growing more and more complex. Compliance doesn't have to be a blocker, but staying on top of regulations, legislation, I know it's hard, but staying on top of everything that's changing is always helpful, as well as being prepared for change by centralizing and automating some of your systems to respond to those changes, investing in compliance tools. Compliance doesn't have to be a cost center. We can work to prepare for changes and make it more of a commerce enablement aspect to your business. And by building that culture of continuous monitoring, you can reduce risk and enable growth. So we really appreciate everyone's time today. Happy to continue the conversation offline. If there was anything we didn't cover or you'd like to dig into deeper, Tariq has shared our information and we're happy to chat more one-on-one.
Yeah.
Tariq, final words?
No, thanks a lot. You did a great job. Thanks a lot, Anne, and thanks everyone for joining us. We'll try to do like one of these every 4 to 6 weeks. So be on the lookout. And yeah, really appreciate your time. Hope everyone has a lovely rest of their day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.